It is. Oh, I thought I had extra ones. You were passing yours around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll do mine on explicit quality criteria, so I can have something to put in my assessment for assessments. So for this class, I'm basing this on one that I did in a placement, and it was for digital technologies. So they were year 8s and they were learning Python, and Python is pretty simple, but they just couldn't get into it. They weren't enjoying it, and it was hard to relate that to like a connectedness to them. So the teacher suggested moving on to the MBOTs, and then we got to play around with those. They got to have a little bit of fun before we actually just started working out how to use them and stuff. Do you all know what an MBOT is?
No clue.
MBOT Ranger.
It's a little robot. It's got wheels. It's got a whole bunch of different sensors. It's got proximity sensors. They look like little googly eyes on the front of it. It's got flashing lights. It's got sound sensors. It's got color detectors, so it can detect. It can follow paths like
Yeah, it's a little smart robot.
black and white. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
They make it look like a little creature, so it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a pink one. Sorry.
There's one.
There is, yeah. So we had pink ones and blue ones, and we've split them up.
Because we used to gender our
Pink
robots.
ones to the boys.
I went to a work meeting where they revealed the new MBOT, and I just signed a non-disclosure agreement that I wouldn't tell anyone about it.
And then you
Oh,
can
shit,
tell
this is
everyone.
No, it came out.
Alright,
a few
you
days
can
ago.
say
And it
everything.
expired like end of September.
Yeah. So is it out yet?
They've announced it, so you can talk about it.
Ooh.
So I don't think it's out.
No, I think we were using the old. I don't know how old these ones are. They're not that old. They were pretty cool actually.
Yeah. No, they're not. They only came out like last year.
Yeah, that's
I was
what I
really
thought.
surprised when I heard they were doing a new one.
Yeah. So for their programming, all we had to do was use a program, and you just drag and drop lines of code in blocks, and you put it together like a little jigsaw puzzle. And then we had to figure out how to use all the sensors. I got to take one home, and I got my guitar, and I figured out a few songs that they could, and then put it into their format so they could bring it back and program the MBOT to sing those songs. I think I did about 5. It was mostly TV shows, and everyone chose the fucking Simpsons. So everything else was a waste. And yeah, so after we learnt that, we got them to move around, moving back and forth, simple movements. And then I designed an assessment for them to create a path that they have to follow, and also they have to use indicators when they turn. They can use the tones when they reach the end, play a little happy song. And I tried to make it fun for them, so I made it a path and made it like a Lord of the Rings path where they had to follow and pick up the ring and then drop it into the volcano and then come back. And not a single one of them liked Lord of the Rings. I know,
guess maybe
it was a
they're
knife in
more-
my heart.
Maybe they're a bit young.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
That kills me.
This was what, like 2001?
2001.
Yeah.
Like, say with all your records,
That wounded me a lot.
so many jokes are gonna go over their heads.
Yeah, it is. But what I did do is I got a whole bunch of craft materials, and I actually physically made volcanoes and towers, and they really, really liked that. That got them into
I
it.
hope they all went and watched Lord of the Rings.
I'm not sure it went that far though.
I hope they did.
Yeah, but so for this,
One good thing as a teacher.
Make them watch all of it.
I used all their prior knowledge and set them a task to make the MBOT follow their path. And so I gave them this assignment, and it steps out how they would go about the assignment. Like there was certain distances to move in a specific order, and to combat cheating, I gave them all. It was the same path, but I gave them all a different objectives to go to for each time, because they're all complete cheaters. They're all walking around looking at each other's computer like, And then, so they all had to drive in different directions, but it was just the one path, so it worked out well. So use flashing lights to indicate the direction, because then that could relate to real world situations like in a car. Accurately stop the MBOT. And once it's stopped, the MBOT sings a little happy tune. Excuse me. And all of those things, they can be related to the real world situations, like the video games. If they press a button to jump, you want that to jump. You don't want it to move to the left and fall off a cliff or something. So for successful completion of the path, I gave them a C for that. If they could complete the path with the flashing lights as the indicators and to stop and play the happy song. To get a B, I gave them another task. They had to be able to explain their code that they put in. They bring the code over into a jigsaw puzzle, but they had to step by step show me what each step does, because a lot of them did that. They dragged stuff over, but then when they went to read back their code, they couldn't follow what it was doing. And I gave them, to get an A, they had to incorporate one or more of the advanced techniques using the sensors, like the proximity sensors and stuff like that, because they're a bit tricky to use, and to get an A, you want to go above and beyond of what you're expected to do. So I also didn't tell them how to do that. I gave that as like a little research project for them to figure out on their own. And a couple of students did it. I was really impressed. And so then in this I gave them the achievement standards that I just took from the ACARA website. Oh no, not ACARA, the Australian curriculum, because they're two different things, aren't they?
Yeah, they do. It's dumb.
But they're the same acronym.
Well, ACARA
Publishes the Australian.
publishes the Australian curriculum. The Australian curriculum website is just ACARA going, this is an easy way to do the Australian curriculum.
Yeah.
And the ACARA website is, who are we and what do we do? Let's learn about ACARA. And
Yeah.
like SACE. Whereas they're like, we have our, it's
Yeah.
dumb.
It's
But it is dumb.
And then I gave a little rubric at the end. It was my bad, but it was just mostly a copy and paste from the science one I made. So a lot of it,
Is this the last page?
a lot of it is related to it. Oh, did I staple them in the wrong order? Oh no, you followed that.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of it is related to it. So, and I found when I was marking for the science one, I could go through the rubric and highlight things.
Yeah.
And then that improved how I could choose what grade to give them. For this one it wasn't so much, but I stepped it out more clearly just on that first page of exactly explicitly what they needed to do to get each certain grade, and if they couldn't reach that, well then
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Students can attain a good grade by explaining exactly what they're doing.
so in this case the rubric wasn't so much effective, but I still tried to make it explicit instructions of what I wanted. And it turned out really well. Got some photos, they all loved it. Yeah, they all
fun.
went, yeah. That was a nice quick lesson today. Yeah, so I've got a little bit of time. I don't get mine written out, I just record them and then I'll pull it off that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely a great deal of explicit quality criteria built into the assessment task. I was just wondering whether or not there could have been a bit more with, it talks about, like for a 5 there, consistent evidence of students examining the quality of their work in relation to these criteria. There's a couple of instances of it where you're talking about them talking you through the code that they put in and things like that.
And they'd get out and they'd constantly be doing a little bit at a time and then
Yep.
testing it to make sure it worked. If it didn't, they'd go back and they'd have to recheck what they've done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so there's a bit of that incorporated into it, so I think that matches that really well.
Cool. Any more?
Yeah, you've definitely made it really explicit on the first page how it links to the rubric. But I would worry that most students are just going to be like, oh, successful training in the past, satisfactory, form, great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, rather than, even trying, and then if they don't get it, they don't get it. That's you give them feedback and you help them get there next time.
Yeah, a lot
They
of them
read
did
this
do
and they
that.
just go, all right, all I have to do is successfully complete the class. All the other stuff's extension work. You
Yeah.
know, I don't care.
Well, that's exactly what it was, but the meat and potatoes of the project was to get round the path, and that taught them everything they needed to do, all the basics that they
Yeah.
needed,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
brought up their prior knowledge of everything they'd been doing over the few weeks.
yeah.
So I was happy with, if they could get a pass, was everything that I have been teaching them over the last few weeks.
Because it would be challenging to
Yeah, that's true.
complete the circuit
Yeah,
as
definitely.
a base standard anyway.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that was different for me
Well, that's
with
the hardest
different
part.
subjects was like the way you mark.
Yeah.
Whereas like
Yeah.
with tech you start at like if they can make the thing perfectly, you start 20, you start chipping off marks for everything they do wrong. Whereas like English is like you
Yeah.
add marks for everything they do right.
Mostly humanities. Are like
Right.
that. Yeah.
So I just want to feel like it's you start if they can complete it, that's just they've passed the base standard,
Yeah.
but everything extra
You add.
you add to it.
Yeah, that's what I
And
did.
then they get and there will
Yeah.
always be kids who are like
Well, that does. I
must
mean,
get an A.
what is good about it is it makes it incredibly clear. It's like
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
done the path, you're at a C grade. You're there. You've done this, you're a B grade. Done that, you're an A grade. There's no like
Ambiguity.
Yeah.
ambiguity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 80% of the class ended up getting a B. I was pretty happy with.
Which is really what you'd
Yeah.
expect, and that's
That-
probably better, slightly better than you'd
Yeah,
think anyway.
10% got a C.
That's
They
why
just
it's
didn't.
good.
They didn't
Yeah.
want to do their
And
career.
10% got an A.
Yeah, 10% got an A.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
a pretty good, I would think.
Yeah.
So I was
great.
happy with that. Yeah.
Fuck man, I failed like half my class.
I wanted to.
Pretty much, yeah.
I bloody wanted to.
I told
I
him straight
could've.
up, digging me around, I
My
failed.
supervisor's like, I'm like the awful marker at this year. I fail like all my class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
That's what I was worried
You
about. I
received
didn't.
no coddling from me.
I didn't argue with my. I mean, it wasn't an actual argument. We got along great, but like an argument about whether or not I could fail them based on their horrific lack of English ability and grammar and structure in an history essay.
We were
And he was
complaining
like,
about that as
"I
well,
know
Max."
how you feel, but technically, no, you can't even mark them on that." I was like, "It's so bad," and I was like, "The communication matters." If we're not marking on communication and we're only leaving it to fucking English class, this is why it's this bad. If we'd been marking this from day fucking one and they'd been practicing, it wouldn't be this bad. And he was like, take it up with fucking state. This is public school. Go work in a private school. That's how they do things. And I was like, well, fuck.
We had that
I'm
problem.
mad about it now.
We even had that problem in maths. We were seeing them like write anything, and it was like, oh my god, they can't write.
No, they can't.
Or crap.
They can't.
Yeah,
right?
they did that.
They can't.
And if
And-
you're
We had
shocking.
we had a
Shocking.
score of
You
1
admitted
for our
to
literacy
like-
in our school. It was,
Oh, God.
yeah, it was unreal.
If
We had
your
to have
maths teachers
like
As an English teacher, I would
threes
love
are
if you
bad.
guys were
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, like,